on having fun, like kids their age should be. But it was clear to me from their questions and from their simple interactions how much they cared about each other, about their community, and about the world beyond it. It was a good reminder of what's at stake and of who was counting on us to get the big things right.
Today, I am happy to share our government's fourth budget, entitled Investing in the Middle Class. The title should come as no surprise, Mr. Speaker, because investing in the middle class began with our first day in office, and it's what we've been doing every single day since. Investing in the middle class means good, well-paying jobs today, and the promise of a better future even in a world filled with change. The interpreter apologizes she cannot hear the minister.
I want to remind members that delay is a tactic that is permissible up to a certain point in the House. Obstruction is not. I am the servant of the House, and as the servant of the House, I am acting in accordance with the House order, and I'm required to allow the matter to continue. The Honourable Minister of Finance has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, just to reiterate, we came into all of 2015 stuck behind. Wages were stagnant. Consumer confidence declined. Those are the facts. That was the outcome of years of cuts and failing stimuli measures. That's what happened when the government decided to try to balance the books at any cost, no matter what the people, the community, orphans,
One that was confident and ambitious. Again, the interpreter apologizes. She cannot hear the minister.
Yes.
have to keep those strong numbers in perspective, Mr. Speaker. If you are a young person still struggling to find meaningful work, a low unemployment rate probably doesn't mean that much. You just want a chance to make a decent living doing work that matters to you. At the other end of the spectrum, maybe you're just someone with a few decades of work experience, but you're worried that the good job you have today might not exist in another 5 or 10 years. Good GDP numbers don't mean a lot when the job you need to feed your family is on the line. There's a growing sense of uncertainty taking root around the world. Mr. Speaker, and Canada is not immune to those worries. Again, the interpreter apologizes. She cannot hear the minister. Budget, Mr. Speaker, we are continuing with our proven and successful plan of investing in the middle class. That means taking steps to ensure that more Canadians. Again, the interpreter apologizes. She cannot hear the minister.
Order. I want to remind members of Standing Order 82-2, which provides an order of the day for the consideration of a Ways and Means motion or motions shall be designated at the request of a minister rising in his or her place in the House. When such an order is designated for a budget presentation, the minister shall specify the date and time thereof, and the order shall be deemed to be an order of the House to sit beyond the ordinary hour of daily adjournment if required. At the specified time, the Speaker shall interrupt any proceedings then before the House, and such proceedings shall be deemed adjourned, and the House shall proceed forthwith to the consideration of the Ways and Means motion for the budget presentation. At 5 p.m. on April 27, 1989, Speaker Fraser was in the process of hearing arguments concerning a question of privilege raised concerning an alleged budget leak. He interrupted the arguments, which he agreed to give a further hearing to at a later time in order to permit the budget presentation. At that time, the Speaker stated, Debates, April 27, 1989, at page 1060. The difficulty the Speaker is in this present situation is that while fully understanding the position of the official opposition and the New Democratic Party, and fully understanding the reason for it, the fact of the matter is that we now have a House order which was passed by the House. I can see no way that I can unilaterally change that. He continued after indicating his intention to hear further argument. However, while I do not know what may eventually happen on the privilege issue, I do know what the House has done with the special House order. I must advise honourable members that I am bound by it. Therefore, it is my duty to recognize the Honourable Minister of Finance. Now, the Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley is rising on a brief point of order.
Thank you, Speaker. Very, very briefly, thank you for that ruling. Of course, in the past number of minutes, as the Finance Minister... That wasn't me. I swear.
He's there. He's there.
As I attempted to, I see there's an emergency alert, but unrelated. Thank you, Speaker. As I was attempting to listen to the Finance Minister deliver the budget speech, it was of course impossible for any member, I believe, in the House, even those perhaps adjacent to the Finance Minister, to hear the speech. It's a privilege, it's a long-standing privilege in this place. We are able to hear one another, even amongst the rigorous debate that this House sometimes enjoys. I wonder if there might be a path forward through you, Speaker, to allow the small discussion that was attempted prior to the speech taking place so that we could actually continue on with the House business of today and hear the speech in some way so that members of Parliament and Canadians through us can understand what the government is proposing in their budget. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Carleton is responding to the same point of order. Briefly, I
Yes, the point that I was attempting to raise earlier on is that the Finance Minister already presented the budget earlier today at about 5 minutes to 4 o'clock. That was his budget presentation. He was given the opportunity to do so. It just so happens that that presentation occurred before the closing of trading on the financial markets, which is a breach at the very least of good management and possibly something more serious. But the reality is the Finance Minister has had an opportunity to speak once already. If you're going to let him speak twice, then why is it that the former Attorney General has only had an opportunity to speak once and cannot speak again?
thank the Honourable Member for Skeena-Bulkley Valley, Honourable Member for Carleton for their comments. Of course, the Finance Minister rose earlier on a point of order. He's now speaking on the Ways and Means motion and is for the budget presentation. Therefore, the Minister of Finance has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for allowing me to proceed. It's obviously been a pleasure to start this speech. I hope that you've heard the parts that I've already delivered, but I do want to continue from where I was. And what I was getting at was some things that we want to do in the housing market. And in particular, I was talking about the fact that we want to take action to crack down on the people who break the rules, who evade taxes or use real estate for money laundering, making housing less affordable for the people who need it. I want to help more middle-class families find an affordable home today. We're offering new targeted support for first-time home buyers. This includes fixing the hours home buyers plan withdrawing $35,000 to $25,000 to reflect the reality of home prices today. And it includes a new initiative called the First-Time Home Buyer Incentive, which will allow eligible first-time home
going to go very briefly to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition on a point of order.
Yes, on a point of order, Mr. Speaker. This is the actions of the government today have been unprecedented, have been an assault on democracy. They have shut down the only public investigation into the Prime Minister's SNC-Lavalin corruption scandal, a scandal which touches upon the Finance Minister himself.
Yeah.
The Finance Minister is today presenting a budget after he has been implicated in an unprecedented assault on the independent rule of law. And Conservatives will not sit idly by while Liberals destroy the integrity of our justice system.
Thank the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. The Honourable Minister of Finance. Order.
As you please.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for recognizing me. I'd like to summarize what I've been presenting over the course of the last number of minutes for Canadians, because I know Canadians want to hear what it is that this government is trying to do to ensure that we continue to have the good fortune for all of us that we expect. We come into this budget 2019, having had very positive economic results over the last 3.5 years. We made the decision back in 2015 to invest in Canadians. Those investments in Canadians, the addition of the Canada Child Benefit, for example, the introduction of the Canada Workers Benefit, they have had important impacts on where we found ourselves economically. We find ourselves today with the lowest unemployment rates we've seen for 40 years. We have higher workforce participation for women. We have higher workforce participation for disabled people. We have higher workforce participation for Indigenous people. We have higher workforce participation for new immigrants, and we have higher workforce participation for youth. Truly, Mr. Speaker, we are in a much better situation today. Mr. Speaker, that is the position from which we start in terms of thinking about how we can continue to invest in middle-class Canadians. We know that with those important efforts over the last 3.5 years, people remain anxious about the future. They worry about the changes in the global economy. They worry about the things that themselves and their families are facing today and tomorrow. So we know, Mr. Speaker, that our work is not done. We know that we need to deal with those anxieties and those challenges in a real and important way so that people can continue to have confidence in the future. And that, Mr. Speaker, is what this budget, Budget 2019, is doing. First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, we thought about our housing market. We know that we've made important efforts over the last 3.5 years to make our market more stable. That's been important. We know that through our investment in affordable housing, we've created more housing units across the country. That's important. We also, though, know that millennials still see that the possibility of getting into the home market is very challenging. So we've moved forward this year with some important measures to deal with that. We've moved forward with measures that are going to enable people to get into housing because they're actually going to be able to have a less expensive mortgage for them and their families. First, par exemple, une personne qui veut acheter un nouveau condo au prix de $400 000 pourrait se prévaloir de l'initiative pour obtenir 10% de ce montant, soit $40 000. Ça veut dire, Monsieur le Président, qu'ils vont être dans une meilleure situation pour acheter leur première maison. Cet ajout à la mise de fonds fait diminuer le montant de prêts hypothécaires assurés, réduisant ainsi les paiements hypothécaires de plus de $225 par mois, c'est-à-dire plus de $2,700 par année. Voilà une aide pour les gens qui souhaitent devenir propriétaires, c'est une aide importante. Pour les jeunes, pour les familles, pour les Canadiens qui n'ont besoin que d'une coupe de pouce supplémentaire pour réaliser le rêve d'être propriétaire d'un logement. Nous avons également entendu des travailleurs canadiens nous dire qu'ils sont inquiétés par l'évolution du monde du travail. Parmi ces Canadiens, on compte des jeunes et des personnes au chômage qui ont besoin d'aide pour intégrer le marché du travail. On compte aussi des travailleurs plus expérimentés qui se demandent si leurs compétences actuelles pourraient ne pas leur suffire pour trouver et garder de bons emplois jusqu'à leur retraite, ou qui souhaitent acquérir de nouvelles compétences afin d'avancer dans leur milieu de travail actuel. Our government believes that Canadians at all stages of their working lives should have the opportunity to learn new skills to take control of the future. To help working Canadians get these skills, we're introducing a new program, the Canada Training Benefit. It's a personalized, portable benefit that will help people to plan for and get the training they need. It consists of a training credit that will give working Canadians $250 every year to put toward the cost of future training. A credit that will add up to as much as $5,000 over a career. It also includes a training support benefit operated through the Employment Insurance Program. With this support, workers won't have to choose between their training needs and their family's needs. They can take the time that they need to learn new skills, knowing they've got help to cover their living expenses along the way. And finally, we intend to move forward with leave provisions in conjunction with provinces and territories so that workers can take the time they need for training without worrying about losing their jobs. Taken together, this means that working Canadians will get 4 weeks of training every 4 years with up to $1,000 to help pay for the training, income support to cover lost income, and the security of knowing they'll have a job to come back to when their training is done. It'll give working Canadians greater confidence about their ability to provide for their families down the road.
Wonderful.
Pour les employeurs, cette allocation se traduira par une main-d'œuvre qui a les compétences et la confiance nécessaires pour contribuer à la croissance de leur entreprise et celle de notre économie. Et afin que les petites entreprises n'aient pas à payer les coûts de cette nouvelle allocation, nous instaurerons un nouveau rabais sur leurs cotisations d'assurance emploi. Même si l'allocation canadienne pour la formation aidera les travailleurs du pays à réussir, nous savons aussi qu'il faut en faire plus pour aider les jeunes Canadiens à bien commencer leur vie professionnelle. C'est pourquoi nous agissons pour rendre l'éducation plus abordable et en réduisant les taux d'intérêt des prêts d'études canadiennes et des prêts canadiennes pour apprentis. Pour les 99% des étudiants qui ont un prêt d'études canadiennes à l'intérêt variable, le
have
taux
a floating
d'intérêt
interest
sera
rate on their
ramené
Canada
au
student
taux
loans,
préférentiel.
the interest rate they pay will be lowered to the prime lending rate.
Ça va être très important pour les étudiants, très important
That's
pour les jeunes et
very
très
important
important
for
pour notre
students,
économie.
for young people,
Et parce que
and
nous
for our
savons que les
economy.
jeunes veulent
And
avoir
because
plus
we know that
d'occasions
young people
d'apprendre
want more
pendant qu'ils
opportunities
travaillent
to
et
learn
de travailler
while they
pendant
work,
qu'ils apprennent,
and to
nous
work while they
élargissons
learn,
le programme de stage pratique pour
we're
étudiants
expanding the student
afin
work
que les
placement
étudiants de
program
tous les domaines
so that
et
students
pas
in
seulement
all
les
fields,
mathématiques et les
not
sciences
just those in
puissent
math and
obtenir
science
de
fields,
bons stages pratiques
can
et
find
acquérir
good work
l'expérience
placements
dont
and
ils ont
get
besoin.
the experience they
Dans ce
need.
budget, nous fixons un
With this
objectif de
budget,
créer
we
jusqu'à
are setting a target of creating up to
84 000 nouveaux
84,000
stages pratiques
new
pour
student
étudiants
work
par année
placements per year
d'ici 5 ans
across
dans l'ensemble du
Canada
Canada en
in
étroite
5 years'
collaboration
time.
avec les entreprises pour
This will
créer
be in
des
close
avantages à
cooperation
long terme
with
pour les Canadiens.
employers to create opportunities for Canadians.
Il s'agira d'une étape importante afin que d'ici 10
This
ans,
will be a
chaque
significant
jeune
step towards
Canadien qui
ensuring
souhaite
that 10
obtenir
years
un
from now,
stage de
every
travail
young Canadian who
soit en
wants a
mesure
work
de
placement
l'affaire.
will be able to get one.
We've also heard from Canadians who believe strongly, as does our government, that no Canadian should have to go without the medication they need simply because they can't afford it. Yet, that's the reality for too many of our friends and neighbors who struggle under the weight of some of the highest drug costs in the world. When people can't afford the medicines that they need, they're less healthy and less able to contribute in their families, in their work, and in their communities. And that costs all of us. And so, guided by the early work of the Advisory Council on the implementation of national pharmacare, we're taking action. First, we'll work with provinces and territories on the creation of the Canadian Drug Agency, which could use its bulk buying power to negotiate better prescription drug prices on behalf of all Canadians. This would help individual Canadians, such as seniors and their families, afford the medicines that they need. It would also support the sustainability of the drug plans they rely on today and pave the way for national pharmacare tomorrow. Second, to help Canadians access the prescription drugs they need, no matter where they live, this new agency will work with the provinces and territories to determine which medicines represent the best value for money for Canadians right across the country. And third, to help Canadians with rare diseases access the drugs that they need, we'll take steps to help make some of the most expensive drugs more accessible through a national strategy for high-cost drugs for rare diseases. Mr. Speaker, parents of children with rare diseases know these costs all too well. It's not just dollars and cents to these moms and dads. It's nights spent sleeping by a hospital bed. It's a constant worry that never goes away. And it's knowing how much happier and healthier their kids could be if they could just get the treatment that they need. So we know that these measures, they alone will not fully close the gap for people who need prescription drugs and can't afford them, but they do mark important first steps on the way to a system that helps all Canadians to get the medicine that they need. Our publicly funded universal health care system is a source of pride for Canadians and a source of strength for our country. It's a legacy that we're building on with this budget. We look forward to receiving the Advisory Council's final report later this spring as we move towards national pharmacare for Canada. Avec ce budget, nous en faisons également pour plus pour les aînés canadiens, Monsieur le Président. Les femmes et les hommes qui ont travaillé fort pendant toute leur vie méritent une retraite sûre et digne, sans souci financier. Nous allons aider ces Canadiens en augmentant la prestation complémentaire au supplément de revenu garanti versé aux aînés vivant seuls, en augmentant le montant des prestations reçues par près de 900 000 aînés à faible revenu et en
low-income
sortant
seniors
environ
and
57
lifted
000
about
aînés de la
57,000
pauvreté.
seniors out of poverty.
Nous avons également aidé à retourner des milliers de dollars
also
dans les
helped to put
poches des
thousands of
Canadiens
dollars back in the
lorsqu'ils
pockets of
deviendront des
Canadians
aînés
as
et
they become
en
seniors
rétablissement
by
l'âge
restoring the
d'admissibilité à la
eligibility
sécurité
age
de la
for old age
vieillesse à
security
65 ans, après que le gouvernement précédent ait
at
forcé les
65
gens à
after
attendre
the
2
previous
années
government
de plus
forced
avant de
seniors to
recevoir
wait
ces
an additional
avantages.
2 years to receive
With
these
this budget,
benefits.
we're taking additional measures, additional steps to make retirement more financially secure for more Canadians, to ensure that all Canadian workers receive the full value of the Canada Pension Plan benefits to which they've contributed. We'll proactively enroll Canada Pension Plan contributors who are 70 or older but have not yet applied to receive their retirement benefits. With this one change, as many as 40,000 seniors will begin to receive an average of an extra $300 per month starting next year. And to help low-income working seniors, we're enhancing the Guaranteed Income Supplement earnings exemption so that seniors who wish to work can keep more of their pay and benefits. As important it is to our shared success that we continue to invest in people, we also know that it's vitally important that we also invest in building a better Canada. That means building strong communities. And one of the ways we do that is by making sure that our cities and our towns have the resources they need to invest in local priorities, whether it's expanding a public transit route, repairing potholes in the spring, or building a new playground or community garden. To give our communities the help they need and to ensure that money earmarked for communities is invested as intended, we will be giving a one-time boost to municipalities through a municipal infrastructure top-up, doubling this year's federal commitment through the gas tax fund. Transferring funds to communities gets projects built. Projects like the Minto Park Concession Building in Dawson City, the Emerald Park Soccer Facility in Edenwold, Saskatchewan, and the Armand Lavoie Amphitheatre in Tracadie, New Brunswick. Monsieur le Président, les communautés de notre pays sont l'une de nos priorités. Nous leur avons promis cet appui et nous tenons parole. Nous savons aussi que dans le monde connecté d'aujourd'hui, il est plus important que jamais pour les Canadiens d'avoir un accès rapide et fiable à l'Internet. Des petites entreprises à la recherche de clients aux quatre coins du monde, aux aînés qui souhaitent maintenir le contact avec leur famille et leurs amis, en passant par les étudiants des collèges qui veulent passer à l'été à la maison tout en suivant des cours en ligne ou postuler pour un emploi. Pour ces personnes, l'Internet à haute vitesse est une nécessité et non un luxe. Et c'est pourquoi, dans le budget d'aujourd'hui, nous annonçons un nouveau plan national pour atteindre cet objectif. By 2030, every Canadian home and small business will have access to high-speed internet no matter where they are located. Mr. Speaker, for those people who say 2030 is a long time away, I want to make sure they know that work is already underway. Supported by the accelerated investment incentive introduced last fall, service providers are already working to bring high-speed internet to more Canadian homes in rural and remote locations. Building a better Canada also means helping people to be part of the clean economy, with energy bills that they can afford and cleaner ways to get around. That's why with this budget, we're taking steps to make zero-emission vehicles more affordable for more Canadians, with a new federal purchase incentive of up to $5,000 for electric battery or hydrogen fuel cell vehicles for Canadians who want to make the switch and pay less at the pump. also provide immediate expensing to a full range of zero-emission vehicles so that businesses that want to switch over their fleet can recoup their investments sooner. To help make monthly electricity bills more affordable, we will enter into a partnership with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities to offer funds to make homes and businesses more energy efficient. This will help support retrofits like new hot water systems or rooftop solar panels that can help lower monthly bills. At the same time, we know that building a better Canada must, by definition, include advancing reconciliation with Indigenous peoples.
Absolutely.
That's why Budget 2019 includes important new measures to help advance self-determination and improve the quality of life for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis Nation people. It includes new investments to better uphold Jordan's Principle so that First Nations children can get the help that they need, when they need it, where they need it. It includes new support for Indigenous languages, for Indigenous entrepreneurs and businesses, for mental health and home care, and for emergency response. All critical parts of healthy and successful Indigenous communities. And most critically, it includes continued investments to make sure that these communities have clean, safe water. There are today children living on reserve in Canada who cannot safely drink or bathe in or even play in the water that comes out of their taps. It's not okay. So we'll continue to work hard and make the investments that are needed to finally make this right. So far, we have lifted more than 80 long-term water advisories, and we're on track to eliminate all of the advisories over the next 2 years. Monsieur le Président, j'ai ici fait part de certains détails sur la signification du budget de 2019 pour la classe moyenne et les personnes qui travaillent fort pour en faire partie, pour les travailleurs canadiens, pour les jeunes et aînés canadiens et pour les peuples autochtones. Toutefois, je veux indiquer très clairement qu'il s'agit d'un budget pour les gens et les communautés de l'ensemble du pays. Je parle ici des personnes qui se rassemblent pour attendre, pour apprendre, travailler ou prier. Peu importe où ils se rassemblent, les Canadiens devraient toujours se sentir en sécurité. C'est pourquoi, dans ce budget, nous doublons nos investissements en vue de protéger nos communautés contre les crimes motivés par l'intolérance et la haine. Afin de mieux combattre le racisme au Canada, nous adoptons une nouvelle stratégie de lutte contre le racisme. Les deux mesures sont vraiment importantes en ce moment dans notre pays, Monsieur le Président. En reconnaissance de la destinée internationale des personnes d'ascendance africaine des Nations Unies, nous collaborerons avec les leaders communautaires en vue de célébrer et de mieux faire connaître les communautés de Canadiens noirs. Afin de donner à plus de personnes ici au Canada et à l'étranger la chance de voir, d'entendre et d'apprécier nos artistes talentueux, nous faisons des investissements qui appuieront nos musiciens et la présence de festivals et de séries de spectacles artistiques dans plus de communautés de toutes les régions du pays. Canada is also a country where we take care of each other in our times of need, including times of serious and life-threatening mental distress. To support people who need immediate crisis support, we'll work with experienced and dedicated partners to support across Canada suicide prevention service. We'll be available English and in French by phone, text, or chat 24/7, so that no one who needs help goes without. For people in the prairie provinces and parts of Western Canada who are critically ill or injured and need emergency medical help, we're investing $65 million in new emergency ambulance helicopters for the region's Shock Trauma Air Rescue Service, or STARS. And because we know that our prairie provinces are especially vulnerable to the extreme weather events that go hand in hand with climate change, and because we value our hard-working farmers and ranchers who help to feed us and keep our economy strong, we'll work with our Western partners on a plan to protect water and soil in the prairies. Afin de nous assurer que les agriculteurs canadiens des secteurs des produits laitiers, de la volaille et des œufs pourront continuer à fournir aux Canadiens des produits de haute qualité dans un monde où le commerce est plus libre, nous mettrons à la disposition des agriculteurs soumis à la gestion de l'offre un programme de protection de revenus ainsi qu'une mesure visant à protéger les investissements que ces agriculteurs ont déjà faits dans le contingent de production. Et à l'Est, afin de maintenir des services de traversier sécuritaires et fiables auxquels se fient les gens de l'Atlantique, nous élargirons le soutien des services existants et chercherons à acheter 3 nouveaux traversiers modernes. Mr. Speaker, even for those who don't speak French, that's a good measure. In communities all across the country, Mr. Speaker, we know that hundreds of thousands of Canadians are living with cancer. Every single day, about 565 people receive a cancer diagnosis, and around 220 people die from cancer. It's something that touches every community and most of our families. To help give more cancer patients and their families help and hope, we'll provide the Terry Fox Research Institute with up to $150 million to establish a national Another illness that touches the lives of millions of Canadians is dementia. With this budget, we're investing $50 million to support Canada's first national dementia strategy. This is going to give people living with dementia a better quality of life and to ensure that their caregivers, who are primarily women, get the help and support that they need as well. Afin de nous assurer que notre système d'immigration est équitable et efficace et qu'il appuie la réputation du Canada en tant que pays accueillant où règne la primauté du droit, nous investirons dans une stratégie exhaustive en matière de protection frontalière en vue de mieux détecter et intercepter les personnes qui entrent irrégulièrement au Canada et qui tentent d'exploiter notre système d'octroi de l'asile. We will also renew our Middle East strategy for another 2 years, supporting humanitarian, development, stabilization, security, intelligence, and diplomatic activities across the region, in addition to our military contribution.
Yeah, that's very good.
And to ensure greater fairness in our tax system, we'll take action to limit the benefit of the stock option deduction for executives of large, long-established corporations, while ensuring that everyday employees aren't affected and that startups and emerging Canadian businesses can continue to grow, attract talent, and create more good jobs.
Bravo.
Mr. Speaker, we live in a world that's changing and changing quickly. Canadians know that we can't stop the trends that are already transforming the world around us. Things like new technologies and more automation. All that they ask for is a chance to find their way in this new world with help from the government so that they can have their best shot at building a good future for themselves, for their children, and their grandchildren. C'est ce que nous faisons dans ce budget.
That's what we're doing
Nous
with this
investissons
budget.
dans la classe
We're
moyenne
investing
et dans
in the
son
middle
avenir,
class and in the
afin que les jeunes aient déjà
when young people
l'expérience dont
graduate
ils ont
from
besoin
school,
pour obtenir
they've
un bon
already got the
emploi au
experience they
moment
need
où ils
to get a
terminent
good
leur étude.
job.
Avec une prête d'études qu'ils ont les moyens de rembourser
With student debt
et une
that they can
chance
afford to
réelle
pay
de
down,
devenir propriétaire
and a real
d'un
chance
logement.
at owning their own
Afin que
home.
les aînés puissent
So that when
envisager
seniors
avec
retire,
optimisme le
they can
temps
look
qu'ils
forward to
passeront
spending their
avec leur
time
famille
with
et
family and
leurs amis
friends,
lorsqu'ils
not
seront à leur
worrying
retraite,
about how they'll
plutôt
pay
que
their bills
de s'inquiéter
every month.
à propos de leur facteur mensuel. So that every Canadian can feel good about what the future holds and be confident about their place in a changing world. And so that Canadian kids, like the ones I spent time with last week in Toronto, can grow up in a country where nothing holds them back. That's what's at stake. And that's what we can accomplish together when we invest in the middle class. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions